Okay, bruchim habayim. We have a lot to discuss. I'm gonna be doing a series on the halachot and the machshavot, the ideas behind mitzvah ben adam lechavero, how we treat each other. The rabbis tell us very clearly that in order to protect ourselves and to be makarev haketz, to shorten the galut and to bring closer the ketz, the end, Mashiach's arrival, mitzvah ben adam lechavero are the fastest and best ways and the most zechut we can bring to ourselves in order to bring the Geulah. And that works out perfectly, my dear friends, because we are discussing in the parashiot all of the Maseh Avot, the actions of our forefathers. And of course, right now we are with Mr. Chesed, Avraham Avinu. And we know that Avraham Avinu had to do a Brit Milah at the end of his life. It's actually 100 years in. And this Brit Milah was a tremendous zchut for him and for future generations. However, it tells us where he did the Brit Milah, which is rather unusual. One knows usually told of locations of various mitzvot, unless they're applicable, and they are on the plains of Mamre. V'yera alav Adonai belonei Mamre. God appeared to Avraham Avinu in the plains of Mamre. Who was Mamre? And why is he getting a shout out in the Torah? So the rabbis say he was a tzaddik of the door of his generation, and he knew that Avraham wanted to do this mitzvah, and everyone else was pushing Avraham away and making fun of him for doing this mitzvah. However, Mamre said, my field, my plains are open to you. Please come and do your mitzvah on my land. And the rabbis learn out that even giving your property to someone else to do a mitzvah brings you tremendous merit. And hey, the guy got a credit in the Torah of being mishtatef, of being involved in this mitzvah. He didn't do anything else. He didn't risk his life at all. He just gave his land in order for Avraham to do the mitzvah. So Avraham Avinu is sitting at the entrance to his tent. And the rabbis are puzzled by this. Why the entrance to his tent? What is going on? He has to sit there. And Rashi tells us that it was an extremely hot day. Hashem went out of his way to make this day extremely hot because he didn't want Avraham Avinu to be bothered after the Brit Milah. And so he made the day hot so there'd be no travelers. However, the pain for Avraham Avinu not to do chesed was worse than recovering from the Brit Milah. He was more pained by not being able to do hachnasat orchim, welcoming guests into his home. And so he sat outside. So Hashem did a special favor. Everyone knows he brought 3 malachim, 3 angels in the guise of man to come to his tent. There's an interesting machloket, actually, about whether Avraham was aware they were angels or not. One opinion is he was fully aware that they were angels, but Hashem sent them in the guise of man, and therefore he wanted to do chesed anyway. How is he aware they were angels? Well, malachim, angels, were regular inhabitants of him and Sarah's home. They used angels all the time. We know his grandson, Yaakov Avinu, was going to send angels to Esav, and so angels were part and parcel of Avraham Avinu's life. That's one opinion. He knew it, but he went through the actions of doing chesed for these 3 angels because Hashem obviously wanted him to do it. The other opinion is, which most people agree with, he had no idea they were angels. They were disguised very, very well as passing Arab traders. So he went out and he leapt out of his seat. By the way, we know that Hashem was with him at this time. Hashem came to visit him. So the rabbis say, wait a minute, if Hashem's talking to you, are you going to leave in order to go welcome a few guests into your home? And the answer is, yes, absolutely. Even if you're receiving a nevuah from Hashem, you're mid-prophecy. Hashem was doing bikur cholim. He's visiting the sick, and still Abraham said, no, Hashem, you'll excuse me. I appreciate you visiting me. I appreciate you giving me nevuah prophecy, but I'm going to have to leave you here because I got to do a mitzvah of hachnasat orchim. Hachnasat orchim is greater than having a conversation with God. Many halachot based upon this idea, but let's take it as a given. And so he leaps out of the entrance tent and he goes and welcomes them. And look at how he even talks to these guests. Now remember, where Avraham is right now, ain't no one doing no chesed. Right? We're near Sodom and Gomorrah. This is a terrible place. No one's doing chesed. Everyone's evil. These guests have nowhere else to go. And yet Avraham goes out of his way to persuade them. He starts to plead and beg with them and talk to them with such kavod. Vayomer Adonai. He calls them my masters. Imna matzatechei beinecha. Please, if I find any form of grace in your eyes, do me a favor. Al na. Na is an absolute supplication. Please, do not ta'avor mi alavdecha. Don't pass your eved. Avraham, who's extremely wealthy, extremely famous, turns around to these three people who are schlepping through the desert in the heat of the day, and he's calling himself their eved. This is incredible anivut, incredible humility. And he says to them, Yukach namad mayim, take a little bit of water, rachatzum v'ragleim v'yishanu tachaneit, and have a little shluf, rest under my tree. This tree is the Eshel Avraham. He built, or he had a tree that he used all the time to let people rest under it. Some say it wasn't an actual tree, it was an inn or a lodging, says Rashi, right? Stands for Eshel is Achila, Shdia, and Lina, in order to rest. He wanted people to chill out, so he created Hotel Avraham. I'm surprised we don't have a hotel here in Manhattan yet called Hotel Avraham. Well, if we did, we'd be in trouble because it would have to be free. Okay, but Baruch Hashem, we have many chesed organizations, right, and gemachs that allow us to do chesed of Avraham Avinu, and we don't charge. Abraham Hostel. Is there an Abraham Hostel?
In Israel, they're all over.
Very good, Baruch Hashem. And so he says to them, take a little bit of water. By the way, he offers them a little bit of water, a little bit of bread, and what exactly does he end up delivering? A lot of food, a 7-course meal he ends up giving them. From here, we see a comparison that the rabbis make between Avraham Avinu and Ephron. Ephron was someone who, the rabbis tell us, promised a lot and did little. Avraham is the exact opposite. He promises a little bit of bread, a little bit of water, and he delivers big. Ephron promised Avraham Avinu when he comes to bury his wife very soon after this incident. He promises him, don't worry, I'll give you a nice piece of land in Hebron. It's free between me and you. He ends up charging him a vast amount of money in order to do this. However, Avraham Avinu promises a little and he does lots. One of the words, my friends, we see in this narrative of Avraham Avinu and these guests, these malachim, is that he's running around. He's all schlepping. He ain't walking around. Follow carefully. V'yemeher Avraham ha'olah. He runs to his wife who's in the tent, El Sarah. V'yomer, and he says to her, Mahari, quickly, shalosh si'im kemach soled lushi vasi ugot. Make for me ugot. So first of all, he's rushing around. Second of all, he's telling Sarah Imenu to make ugot. What are ugot? Cakes. In modern Hebrew, not in Torah Hebrew. In Torah Hebrew, ugot actually is probably the opposite of cakes. What is ugot? I don't know. I'm going to have to find the word ugot mentioned somewhere else in the Torah, and we do. It does say. Right, very, very good. Ugot, it says later on that ugot actually refers to ugot, matzot. By the way, what does ugot literally mean? What's agul? What's ag? Round. Original matzot were round, not these square things we see packed up in the, aviv matzot boxes. Ugot is always something which is round. And so Avraham Avinu served, we know, his guests matzot. Why? Why is he giving matzot? We're giving a nice, big, thick, doughy muffin or a pita or a nice challah. Why exactly is Avraham Avinu giving them matzot? So the rabbis tell us because it was Pesach. It was Pesach time. How can it be Pesach? The Jewish people hadn't even been created yet, let alone going into Mitzrayim and leaving. That's not going to happen for, 1,000 years or so. So why exactly is Avraham celebrating Pesach, serving his guests, God? And Rashi, this is not some Kabbalah, by the way. Rashi himself tells us later on that it was Pesach time when he comes to describe Lot. It's Pesach. How can it be Pesach? We hadn't even gone into Egypt, let alone leave Egypt. And Rabbi Dessler gives an unbelievable answer to this question. This is a very important concept we must understand when it comes to understanding the Chagim. And it goes like this, my dear friends. You see, we all think, that we celebrate Pesach to remember and to commemorate the leaving of the Jewish people from Mitzrayim. Actually, say the rabbis, it's lehefech, it's the other way round. The reason the Jewish people left Mitzrayim is because it was Pesach. In other words, we don't celebrate Pesach because the Jewish people left Egypt. The Jewish people left Egypt because it was Pesach. How could that be? Pesach always existed. There's something in the fabric of time called Zman Cherutenu, the time of our freedom. The time of our freedom. And that happens to be the 15th of Nisan. Hashem created, it was Borei Olam. He created the world with this Zman already. So actually the word Zman comes from the word Zimun, prepared. Right? Before we do Bechad HaMazon, we make a Zimun, because we prepare ourselves to thank Hashem for the Su'udah that we just had. And therefore we are mezamen ourselves. So the word Zman means prepared. Why does the word Zman, time, also mean prepared? Because Hashem prepared time for us. When Hashem created this world, He didn't just create the physical world, He created something called Zman as well. There is something in that Zman which is called Pesach. And that is Zman Cherutenu. It's always been that way. It happens to be in the Jewish year 2448. The Jewish people were able to tap into that time and to go free from Egypt. So we left Egypt because it was Pesach. That's how we managed to leave. What do you mean it was Pesach? Pesach started after we left Egypt. No. Hashem created a time of freedom and we were able to tap in. Why that year specifically? Well, the Haggadah tells us that had we not left that year, we would never have left at all, because the Jewish people were in such a tumah, such a spiritual defilement, and because Egypt was so bad. It was like San Francisco on cocaine. It was terrible. And the Jewish people were stuck in it. They say that Egypt was the most metameh place in the entire world, and Goshen, where the Jewish people were, was the worst of the worst. So there was the 49th level of Tumah. Had we not left that year, we were not left at all. So Hashem did us a big chesed and took us out. But He had to wait for the 15th of Nisan, for Pesach to roll around, so we're able to tap into that time and get out. So Avraham Avinu, somehow, don't ask me how, this is above my pay grade, knew that this was the time, and the food that goes with the time, listen carefully, the food that goes with the time is matzah. Why? What does matzah represent? The Torah is telling us, zrizut, speed, move quick, v'yemaher, says Avraham Avinu. Get going. We got to get out. We got to move. We got to do chesed. As the rabbis tell us very beautifully, mitzvah ba'liado al tachmitzena. Don't let your mitzvot become chametz. How do you allow your mitzvot to become chametz? By waiting. When the chance for a mitzvah comes into your hand, do not wait. Get the job done now. Move. V'yemaher. Ratz. Get going. That's what Avraham Avinu is telling himself and Sarah. That's why he's running. That's why the entire narrative, the entire story of him with the Malachim, he's running around. What are you running around for? They ain't going anywhere else. No, he's teaching us the Torah. He's teaching us a lesson. When you have the chance for action, do it as quickly as possible. Mitzvah b'liado, don't let it become chametz. How do your mitzvot become chametz? What is chametz anyway, by the way? Chametz is flour and water, same as bread. But you've got 18 minutes from when the water hits the flour. You've got to keep it moving and get into the oven within 18 minutes. If not, it becomes chametz. So the word mitzvot is the same word as matzot. Spelled the same way, different vowels, right? Mitzvot is matzot. So don't let your matzot become chametz, but letting things chill. You've got to get going. You've got to be the matzah people. That's what we are. If there's one food that represents us that ain't bagels, it's matzot. Right? We are the matzah people. The matzah principle is when the mitzvah come, get going straight away. I don't know if I mentioned this story before. Mechila, if I did, but I want to tell you a story from Tanakh. If I've said this story before, I'm sorry, but I told it last night in Miami, and I wanted to tell it. I came back Baruch Hashem early this morning, and I want to share with you this unbelievable story I read, and this is from Tanakh. Last Shabbat, I woke up. I was still jet lagged from my trip to Eretz Yisrael when I got back, and I woke up at 4:30. I'm embarrassed to say, usually I woke up 4:30 in the morning. If it ever happens, I'm on my phone. But it was Shabbat, no phone. What am I going to do? Read Torah. All right? You're going to read Torah. So I got my Torah open, and I opened up the story from Tanakh and the story of Gideon. There's a story about Gideon in Tanakh and Shoftim. Right? One of the judges of Israel. Did I mention this story before? Did I mention this? Okay, check out the story. It's unbelievable. I'm going to tell you an amazing lesson from it. Gideon, I don't know who he is. He's a shofet. He's a great judge of Israel. He's a Navi. He's a prophet. And he's having a lot of trouble with the Midianites in Eretz Yisrael. They're causing a lot of trouble. They're fighting, attacking. By the way, if you want to know how to deal with terrorists in Israel today, it's not the first time. Look in Tanakh. Most of the stories in the Nevi'im, in the prophets, is about us dealing with enemies inside of Israel. So if you want a good template of how to deal with the enemies, what you have to do and what you should not do, it's worth reading. The Torah is fantastic, of course, but the Torah has not got stories from inside Israel. The inside Israel stories are from Yeshua and onwards. And this is one of those amazing stories. This is this incredible story. It's going to change your life. So Gideon is in Israel. And he's got to deal with them. So he says, Hashem, we've got to fight off. They're killing us. They're torturing us. They're hurting us. What are we going to do? So Hashem says to him, what should he do? Make an army. You want to beat them? Go make an army. And so he does. And he gathers together 33,000 soldiers. 33,000 to beat off this inside enemy inside Israel. What does Hashem say? Anybody know? Too many. Oh, way too many. Because if you win the war with 33,000, what's everyone going to say? It's Kochem V'yadi. It's my power that did it. The people are going to say that. But I want everyone to know that it's me, Hashem, who helps you in battle. By the way, Dayenu, if the story ended over there, it would be good enough. But it goes much, much further with something very, very surprising. Check this out. 33,000 too many. Get rid of half of them. So Gideon turns around and says, listen, if anyone's scared, you want to go home, right? You've got a wife, got kids. He gives them like an out to go home. 20,000 leave. Gone. He just walked home. Right? They're gone. Khalas. So now he's left with an army of 20,000 less. What is that? 32, 22, 11, right? 12,000, something like that, soldiers. He's like, okay, let's go, baby. Let's go defeat the enemy and protect our people. Hashem's like, nah, hold your horses. Literally, hold your horses. Still too many. What do you mean too many? There's thousands of them. Hashem said, still too many. Get rid of them. He goes, how am I going to get rid of more? They don't want to go. It's very simple. Go to some water. Have the soldiers drink from the water. If they go on both knees, this is actually a technique used many times, and they drink from the water with their face on both knees, it shows that they're used to doing this, and they are oved, avodah zarah. They're idol worshippers, and the zchut is not going to be with them. The merit won't be with them. Idol worshippers, I can't protect them. Their actions have prevented me, protected them, therefore get rid of them. So he goes to the water, and he sees thousands of them putting their face in the water. He's like, oh, we got a problem. We got a big problem. However, there were some who lifted their water. This is a story in Tanakh, by the way. I'm not making this up. Don't shoot the messenger. No, I'm serious. Don't shoot the messenger. So he goes and he sees a bunch of people lifting the water up to their face. And he says, you stay with me. How many were there? 300. So now it's Gideon and 300. By the way, that's where the whole story, they stole it from us. The 300 soldiers, right, in Greek history, comes from this story, by the way. Another thing they took from us. These 300 men are now going up against thousands and thousands of enemy terrorists in Israel. Okay. Why am I telling you this story? For the next part. Please listen very carefully. Gideon goes to a town called Sukkot and says, listen, there's 300 of us. We're traveling. We're trying to beat these kings. We need a little bit of water and a little bit of flour to make bread. The Jewish people in Sukkot said, no, we're not going to give you anything. Because why not? Because we're with them. We don't want to get involved. We don't want to show favoritism between you and the terrorists. And therefore, we're not going to help out. He says, listen, this is treason. If you don't do this, we're going to come back later because we're going to win this war because God is with us. We're going to come back, he says, and we're going to punish you. We don't care. Get out. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine? This is the prophet of God. Okay, no problem. He leaves. He goes to another town called Penuel, and he walks in. And he walks into Penuel, and he says, listen, we don't want you to fight. We're going to fight. There's 300 of us. A little bit of water, a little bit of flour. My men are hungry. They're thirsty. They're tired. And they're like, no, we don't want to help you. We're not taking sides. We're not taking sides over here. He says, but we're fighting to protect you. And they're like, get out. And he goes, if you don't, we're going to come back and punish you. We're going to come back and we're going to punish you. He's like, loch batli, don't care, get out. That's how Gideon, the great prophet of God, was treated by his own people in Israel. You hear? He goes, he fights, he wins. Hashem promised him, I'm going to give him into your yad, into your hands. He goes back to Sukkot, this original town. What would you think he would say to the people of Sukkot, or do to the people to Sukkot after they did what they did? I would have thought, guys, you made a mistake. I understand you. It's all understandable. But you know what? Don't do it next time. That's what I would have thought. Do you know what he did? He took the leaders, he stripped them, he took branches with thistles and thorns and publicly beat them in the public square for everyone to see. This is not a PC story. This story is not PC, it's AC. It's not politically correct, it's absolutely correct. He publicly shamed them and said, this is how we treat people who go against the word of Hashem and don't even help their own people when we're at war against Midian or any enemy of Israel. He did a lot more, but we'll leave it aside. I don't get too many complaints from the viewers. And then he goes to Penuel and he says, you remember me? You know us fighting to protect you? All you have to do is a little something, a little something. He smashes down. Penuel means there was a big building there. They'd built a big, mighty city. He smashes a city in Israel of Jews down and says, this is what, and God did not complain. God's like, good job. That's how to show them. And that's the end of the story. Now, I'm not sure exactly how the rabbis interpret the story, but I'll tell you what I think. When the Jewish people are at a time of sakana, you don't need to fight with them. You may not be a fighter. Do something. Show a little bit. Give a little bit of money. Make a post if you're on social media. Give a little bit of chizuk to the troops, to our army. People are suffering. And if not, I'm just telling you what it says. You are open to public humiliation and bizayon. You can shout out that these people are going against our people. This is not a time, my friends, to be quiet. The Jewish people, Am Yisrael, Klal Yisrael need to know that if you don't help out, we're going to publicly mavaza you, publicly shame you for not standing by your people when we need you. That is what I learned very clearly from this story of Gideon. There's times when Am Yisrael needs you. And if you don't step up, you're going and you should be called out. Something very simple like giving a cup of water to a warrior, right? A little bit of bread. It could be something very simple. He didn't ask them to join the battle, but a little something. A little bit towards your brothers and sisters. A little bracha. I don't care what it is, a shir malot, but don't turn your back to the people, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Lo Aleinu, could come back and say, you didn't help our people, my people, Am Yisrael, fighting against this enemy, I am not going to be there for you when you are in tzara, when you are in trouble. Mitzvah ba liado, chance for a mitzvah comes, al tachmitzena. Don't let that mitzvah become chametz. Don't say someone else is going to take care of it. You know, there's a famous idea when it comes to midot, which we'll be discussing in the upcoming classes. It comes to character traits, right? They always say that every character trait always has an opposite. There's always an opposite. It has to be. Right? You can't be too giving. You can't be too stingy. You've got to figure out exactly to find the shvil zahav, says the Rambam, the golden mean between midot. Okay? You've got to figure out. You can't be an extremist. That's not the Jewish way. So one of the great rabbis was asked, what's the opposite of believing in God? You're saying every positive trait, and believing in God is a great trait. What's the opposite of emunah, or believing in God? So this great rabbi once said, the opposite of believing in God is not believing in God. He's like, when is that ever appropriate? And he says, when your friend is in trouble. When your friend is in trouble, don't believe in God. What does that mean? Don't believe in God. Don't say, I'm not going to help out. God will take care of it. At that time, like, I don't believe in Hashem. I'm going to go help out. When I'm in trouble, I have to believe in Hashem for myself. But when my chaver is in trouble, I am not going to believe, God will take care of them. I need to do some pu'ulah, some action in order to help them, in order to make sure that they are in a good place. That's the story of midot. Actually, the word midot is a fantastic word. The word midot actually means, we translate it as measurements, measurements. But actually, it refers to character traits. The word midah is a measurement, like this table has a measurement, right? Your height is a midah, right? What is a midah of a person? 6'2". Or if they're Jewish, 5'3", right? Everyone has a midah. Why is the word for character trait the same as a measurement? What is the connection between these two words? If the same Hebrew word describes two different things, those two different things are connected. That is the concept which goes right through Jewish machshava thought. And it goes like this. I'll give you two answers. Why character trait is the same as measurement. First of all, how do you measure someone, right? By the character trait. We don't measure them by their wealth. We're not impressed with that, right? We don't measure them by the size of their house, right? The second, third, or fourth house. We don't measure them by their car, the banker. We measure people, but that's how we measure them. And Hashem measures people by the character traits. Okay, that makes sense, right? We even say in English, how does that person measure up? So character traits are the same as measurement. But I want to say something much more important. Check this out. Listen very carefully. I want you to download this idea into your head. Once again, what's the question? Why is the word for measurement the same as the word character traits? Because when a person is faced with a problem and a challenge, how do you measure your response? Right? If you find yourself in a difficulty, if you find yourself ready to lose your temper because someone cut in front of you in the traffic and you want to, right, you're in the kosher supermarket and someone pushes that cart in front of you and you want to, or there's you're in the 10 item or less checkout of the supermarket and there's that one Jewish lady who's got 50 items in her cart, although it says clearly 10 items or less. However, it's the same, she's got 50 cans of soda. So in her mind, it's only one item, right? She has now reinterpreted this thing. And you want to, come on, lady. It's going to take us time to bing, 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 right through all the items. It's 10 items or less, right? It's quantity, not quality. And you want to lose your temper, and maybe sometimes rightly so. The answer is your character depends upon how you react, how you measure your response. That is how we define character. Not your level of belief in God at that moment, not in how you, but how you measure how angry you get. Are you able to control yourself and cuss? The rabbis tell us anger is going to be one of the biggest challenges that we face every single day. We're going to talk in the coming weeks how we deal with anger. Like how we're going to measure our response to something. So if, for example, I say to my daughter, and we'll finish with this. Let's say I have older daughters now, but when my daughters used to walk in with mud on their shoes, and I used to be like, take your shoes off, you're going to make a mess? And then, yes, Abba, yes, Abba. And I look around and I see little small muddy footprints throughout the house. Like little muddy footprints throughout the house. And I'm like, was that you? And I'm like, yes, Abba. I'm like, that's it. I'm not paying for college. We had a whole plan for you. You were going to go to college. We're going to pay for medical school. I'm taking that money, and me and Mummy are going on vacation. See ya. Why is that so? Why do we laugh at that? Because the response, the reaction, doesn't merit the crime. You have to measure your response. You have to say, I don't know, no dessert tonight, or go clean up your mess, right? Or go to your room, or whatever it is. The key to life, how we define and build midot, is how we measure our response. So if someone says something to you, you want to go crazy. And by the way, there's a lot of people saying a lot of things out there, and our blood is boiling right now, me included. Many times it's Jews, what you need to do is measure response. Not saying don't respond. We learn from Gideon, you got to respond, you got to talk, you got to fight back. But you got to measure that response. How do I say it? Put some sechel into how you respond, when you respond, where. It's got to fit the crime. That's the challenge of building our midot. And we learn that, and all of this, from the chesed of Avraham Avinu, because it is a chesed to fix ourselves and fix other people as well. If people step out of line, you've got to know how to respond to them in order to get them and put them on the straight path, which is what Avraham Avinu, we don't want to think about it, did his entire life. He would bring people to his tent, he would feed them, and he would say, you don't have to pay, but you've got to make a bracha, and you've got to thank the one true God of Israel. HaKadosh Baruch Hu shall allow us this day to work on our midot, to bring our brothers and sisters home. Shalem. This is a time of tzara for our people. Deep, deep. Not being like this since the Holocaust, the Shoah. And we should see Yeshuot, v'nechamot, and shalva for our people. B'mhira, amen, amen.